Hello everyone. In today's video, I'll explain you the second chapter from first flight, that is Nelson Mandela Long Walk to Freedom. So students, before starting the explanation of the chapter, I'll give you a brief introduction about Nelson Mandela and his autobiography Long Walk to Freedom. So who was Nelson Mandela? The first question comes in our mind, that who was Nelson Mandela? You know student, Nelson Mandela was the first black president of South Africa. You know, South Africa is a country in the Africa continent. He was born in 18 July 1918 in royal family. He spent 30 years in prisons in South Africa to fight against the apartheid system. You know what is apartheid system? Apartheid system was a system where the people were discriminated on the basis of their color and skin. In those days, what happened? The white people, they oppressed the black people. The black people were in miserable condition. They didn't have any right to do anything in their own country. They were deprived with their basic rights. And after a long time, finally, there were democratic elections were held in South Africa in 1994, and Nelson Mandela elected as the first black president of South Africa. And because of him, the apartheid system was abolished in South Africa, and he made his country free from white supremacy. Long Walk to Freedom. Students, Long Walk to Freedom is an autobiography of Nelson Mandela. What is an autobiography? An autobiography is a life story of a person written by himself. So this chapter is an extract of his autobiography Long Walk to Freedom. In this chapter, there is a description of an inauguration ceremony, his journey to being a freedom fighter, his struggles against the apartheid system, along with tribute to all those who sacrificed their life for their own land, and the countless people who fought for their country. So let's begin the chapter. I'll explain the chapter as well as word meaning. Let's proceed.
Students, now I'll explain this chapter line by line. 10th May down bright and clear. So here the Nelson Mandela is saying the 10th May. The 10th May, why the 10th May was very important day in South Africa? Because that day Nelson Mandela was elected the first black president in South Africa, and the day was bright and clear. For the past few days, I had been pleasantly besieged. Pleasantly means happily. Besieged means to be surrounded closely by. So the past few days before the inauguration, he had been pleasantly besieged by the dignitaries and the world leaders who were coming to South Africa to pay their respects before the inauguration. You know, students, when the apartheid system was in practice, all the countries, they broke their relation from South Africa. So now again those countries started their relation from South Africa. That's why the dignitaries and the world leaders, they were coming to South Africa to continue their relation. The inauguration would be the largest gathering ever of international leaders on South African soil. So again he is saying that inauguration would be the largest gathering. How it would be the largest gathering? Because the people, the dignitaries and the world leaders, they were coming from different countries, and that was the first time so many international leaders were gathering on South African soil. So that was the reason that the inauguration would be the largest gathering ever of international leaders on South African soil. The ceremony took place in this lovely sandstone amphitheatre formed by the Union Buildings in Pretoria. So the ceremony took place in the lovely sandstone amphitheatre. Sandstones is a kind of a stone of different colors. An amphitheatre is a building without a roof with many rows of seats rising in steps. Formed by the Union Building in Pretoria. Pretoria is the capital of South Africa. For decades, a decade. What do you mean by a decade? A decade is a period of 10 years. So for decades, this had been the seat of white supremacy. So for many years, that union building is the seat for the white people, because there was the rule of white people only. And now it was, and then it was the site of rainbow gathering. Then that day it was seemed like a rainbow. Why he said rainbow? Because we know that rainbow has different color. Similarly, in the building, in the union building, there were different kind of people were sitting, and the different colors in the nation, because they were coming from different nations for the installation of the South Africa's first democratic non-racial government. So student, why there are different kind of people? Because the party system was abolished, and now the different people coming from different nation of different colors. That's why saying it is a site of a rainbow gathering on that lovely autumn day. So students, you might be surprising, in the starting we say 10th May, and according to 10th May it would be the summer day. But why did he say it lovely autumn day? As we all know that South Africa is in southern hemisphere. When in northern hemisphere summer season will be there, then it will be the opposite in the southern hemisphere. That's why here in South Africa it is an autumn day. I was accompanied by my daughter Jinani, and he was along with his daughter, and her name is Zenani. On the podium, Mr. D. Luck was the first one in as second deputy president. So Mr. D. Luck also sworn there as a second deputy president. Thabo Mbeki was sworn in as the first deputy president. When it was my turn, I pledged to obey and uphold the constitution and to devote myself to the well-being of the republic and its people. So before Nelson Mandela, D. Luck and Thabo Mbeki, they were sworn as the deputy president, first and second deputy president of South Africa. When his turn had come, he pledged to obey and follow the constitution and devote his life for the well-being of its country and its people. To the assembled guests, and he watching the poll, I said. Then he addressed all the people, all the dignitaries and the world leaders, those who came there to be a part of inauguration ceremony. He thanked all the people. Today, all of us do, by our presence here, confer glory. Confer means here given. Confer glory and hope to newborn liberty. So here Nelson Mandela is saying that they all were gathered there to welcome and hope for beginning a new liberty, means freedom, newborn freedom. Out of the experience of an extraordinary human disaster that lasted too long. As we know, in South Africa, the apartheid system was in practice, and the white people, they always oppress the black people. So that extraordinary human disaster was for a long time. Must be born a society of which all humanity will be proud. Then he said, they must be born a society, society of democratic country, and non-racial government will be there, and they create such society where all the people of different skin, they would be proud to be a part of such society. We who were outlaws not so long ago have today been given a rare privilege to be hosts to the nations of the world of our own soil. So here Nelson Mandela is saying that they were outlaws. Outlaws means they didn't have any kind of relation with other countries. They were rejected by the other countries for any diplomatic relations. But that day, they have been given a rare privilege to host all the nations' leaders in their own country, in their own soil. We thank all of our distinguished international guests for having come to take possession and with the people of our country of what is, after all, a common victory for justice, for peace, for human dignity. And he thanked to all the people, those who were coming from, all the leaders and dignitaries, those who came from different parts of the countries and become a part of the swearing in ceremony. And after all, it was a victory. It was a victory for justice, for peace, for human dignity. Then he said, actually that was the victory of common people, victory for justice, victory for peace, and victory for human dignity. Because at the time of apartheid's practice, all the people, they were deprived from their basic rights. We have at last achieved our political emancipation. Emancipation means freedom from restriction. Then he said, at last they achieved their political emancipation, political freedom. Now they could be the part of any government. We pledge ourselves to liberate our people from continuing bondage of poverty, deprivation, suffering, gender, and other discrimination. Then he pledged that he liberate all his people from continuing bondage of poverty, deprivation. Deprivation means the state of not having one's rightful benefits, suffering, gender, and other discrimination. So he said that he would give freedom to all his people, those who were suffering with poverty, deprivation, gender, discrimination, and other kind of discrimination. Never, never, never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another. Then he said, in his country, nobody would again oppress by the another people. The sun shall never set on so glorious a human achievement, and the sun always keep on shining, so glorious a human achievement, and this was a glorious human achievement. Let freedom reign. God bless Africa. Let the freedom ruled, and Africa would be blessed by God. A few moments later, we all lifted our eyes in awe as a spectacular array of South African jets, helicopters, and troops carriers rode in a perfect formation over the Union buildings. So, after the speech of Nelson Mandela to the audience, they were surprised and they lifted their eyes by the spectacular array. Spectacular array means an impressive display of South African jets. They were surprised to see the spectacular array of South African jets, helicopters, and troops carriers. They roared in a perfect formation over the Union buildings. It was not only a display of pinpoint precision means accuracy and military force, but a demonstration of the military loyalty to the democracy, to a new government that had been freely and fairly elected. So that was not actually a display of pinpoint accuracy, but a demonstration of the military loyalty to a new government, or we can say democratic government, that had been freely and fairly elected. Only moments before, the highest general of the South African Defence Force and the police, their chest bedecked means decorated with ribbons and medals from days gone by, saluted me and pledged their loyalty. So the moment before, the highest general of South African Defence Force and South African police, they saluted Nelson Mandela and they promised for their loyalty, and their chest decorated with ribbons and the medals they won for their bravery. I was not unmindful of the fact that not so many years before they would have not saluted but arrested me. He was not aware of the fact that so many years back they would have not saluted him instead of arrested him, because that time he was fighting for against the apartheid system and he was fighting for his own country. Finally, a chevron. Chevron means a pattern in the shape of V of Impala jets. Impala jets made a V-shaped pattern, left a smoke trail of the black, red, green, blue, and gold of the new South African flag. And he left the smoke in different color. Those colors were the new South African flag. The day was symbolized for me by the playing of our two national anthems. Then he said that day was symbolized that both the white people and the black people, they were singing their national anthem together at the same time. And the vision of white singing is Kosi Sakalil Africa, and the black singing Die Stem. So there were two national anthems were sung together. The whites were singing Kosi Sakalil and I Africa, and the blacks they were singing Die Stem. The old anthem of Republic. Although that day neither group knew that the lyrics of anthem they once despised. Despised means had a very low opinion of. They would soon know the words by heart. And again he said that although that day Neither both the groups don't know the lyrics of the anthem, and they were singing in very low opinion, but soon after they will sing the national anthem by their heart. On the day of inauguration, I was overwhelmed. Overwhelmed means a strong emotional effect with the sense of history. So, on the day of inauguration, Nelson Mandela, he was remembering the past, and he says about the history in the first decade of the 20th century. Here, the first decade of 20th century means 1900. A few years after the bitter Anglo-Boer War and before my own birth. So he was telling about a war that was before his birth. The white-skinned peoples of South Africa patched up their differences and erected means built a system of racial domination against the dark-skinned people of their own land. According to that system, the white-skinned people, they create the differences between the people on the basis of color, and they built a system that is the apartheid system on the basis of racial domination in his own land. The structure they created formed the basis of one of the harshest and the most inhumane means cruel, societies the world has ever known. This structure, the apartheid system they erected, that was the most harshest and the most cruel society of the world ever known. Now in the last decade of the 20th century, last decade of the 20th century means that 1994, and my own eighth decade as a man. That his age was 80 years, and that system had been overturned forever and replaced by one that recognized the rights and freedoms of all the people. And after that decade, that system was reversed forever. The apartheid system was abolished and replaced by one that system that recognized for the rights and freedom of all peoples, where all the peoples they would live happily without any discrimination regardless of the color of their skin. The day had come about through the unimaginable sacrifices of thousands of my people whose suffering and courage can never be counted or repaid. Then Nelson Mandela, he was still remembering the history where number of peoples they sacrifices their life and for their country, and their suffering and their courage they cannot be counted or repaid. I felt that day, as I have on so many other days, that I was simply the sum of all those African patriots who had gone before me. So he was saluting all the patriots, those who sacrificed their life for their country, and they had sacrificed their life for the country before him. And that long and noble line ended and now began again with me. So their sacrifice and their love for their country, that line is ended and now it's begin with him. I was pained that I was not able to thank them and they were not able to see what their sacrifices had brought. And he was so sad. Why was he sad? He was sad because he was not able to thank to those people, those great people, for their courage and their sacrifices. Although they were not able to see their sacrifice and their courage was not wasted, and after these sacrifices they have what they had achieved. Brought means achieved. They were not able to see their achievement. Their sacrifices had got the achievement. The policy of apartheid created a deep and lasting wound in my country and my people. So Nelson Mandela is saying he was very sad because the apartheid system created a very deep and long lasting wound in his country and the people of his country. The people of his country suffering with the apartheid system. And the white people, they oppressed the black people there. All of us will spend many years, if not generations, recovering from that profound hurt. So again, he was saying that his people and his country is suffered too much, not only many years, maybe it could take many generations to recover from that profound means deep and strong hurt. But the decades of oppression and brutality had another unintended effect, and that was it produced the Oliver Tambos and the Water Sislers and the Chief Littles and the use of Dadus. So for many years, for decades, there was a practice of oppression and brutality which produced the great hero in African country, that is South Africa. They were Oliver Tambo's, Water Sislers, Chief Lutless, and the Yusuf Dadus. And they were such men of extraordinary courage, wisdom, and generosity, for their like may never be known again. Perhaps it requires such depths of oppression to create such heights of the characters. Thus, it required that level of unjust treatment to produce such great heroes, as Nelson Mandela says. My country is rich in the minerals and the gems that lie beneath its soil. As we all know that South Africa is a country which is rich for the minerals and the diamonds. But I have always known that its greatest wealth is its people, finer and truer than the purest diamond. Then he says that although his country is rich in minerals and gems, but its greatest strength lies in its people. Its people are the finer and truer than the purest diamond. It is from these comrades, comrades means fellow members of any organization, in the struggle that I learned the meaning of courage. The Nelson Mandela here is saying that he learned the courage from his fellow friends, those who fight a struggle against the apartheid system. Time and again, I have seen men and women risk and give their lives for an idea. And then he said that he had seen the men and women, those who risk and give up their lives for their idea. I have seen men stand up to attacks and torture without breaking, showing a strength and resilience and that defies the imagination. Resilience means the ability to deal with any kind of hardship and recover from its effect. Then he says that he has seen the man, those who stand up, those who have no fear of any attacks or torture, and they were not fear of any breaking and showing the strength, resilience that defies the imagination and that can be beyond the imagination. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. Then Nelson Mandela says that he learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but to victory over it. Triumph means victory. The brave man is not who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. Then he said, according to him, the brave man is not who does not feel afraid. According to him, the brave man is that who conquers or triumph over his fear. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background. So here Nelson Mandela is saying that when anybody born, he doesn't start hating with each other on the basis of color of his skin and his background or his religion. People must learn to hate. So people are taught to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. So then if the people they learn how to hate others, they can also taught to love others. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. And he says that love comes naturally to the human heart at comparison opposite to its hate. Even in the grimmest times in prison when my comrades and I were pushed to our limits. So here the Nelson Mandela is saying that even in the grimmest means the toughest and the saddest time in the prison, when he and his comrades mean his fellow friends, they were pushed to their limits. Pushed to their limits means pushed to the last point of their ability to be a pain. I would see a glimmer. Glimmer means a ray of humanity in one of the guards, and he can see the glimmer of humanity in one of the guards, perhaps just for a second. For a second, he see a glimmer of humanity, but it was enough to reassure me, keep me going, and from there he get the strength to keep on going because he still believed that there is a humanity among the people. Man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden, never extinguished. So he believes that the goodness in human beings can be suppressed but never eliminated. So student, this was the explanation of the first part of the chapter, Nelson Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom.